In the middle of a vast land, far from the noise of cities and the rush of daily life, there was once a small village surrounded by rolling hills and endless fields. The air was always crisp with the scent of wildflowers in the spring and carried the earthy fragrance of soil after the rain. Life in the village was quiet, simple, and peaceful, but among the people there was a story that was passed down. It was not just an ordinary tale, but one that carried weight, comfort, and wisdom. It was the story of a little lantern in the darkness, a story told to children when they struggled to sleep, and whispered to adults when their hearts were heavy with worries. For the villagers believed this tale was not only a fable, but a reminder of something true. Even the smallest light has meaning in the deepest night. Long ago, in this very village, there lived a boy named Elias. Elias was like many children, playful during the day, running across the fields, chasing butterflies, and climbing trees with laughter that echoed through the hills. But as soon as the sun dipped below the horizon and the shadows lengthened, his joy would fade. Night frightened him, stealing his peace and making him restless. When the quiet settled over the village, and the wind whispered through the cracks of the windows, Elias would shiver, pulling his blanket tightly around him. Every creak of the wooden beams above him felt like footsteps. Every shape in the corner of the room looked like a lurking shadow ready to leap. Sleep did not come easily to him, for fear gripped his heart. His parents tried all they could. They sang him lullabies, sat by his bedside, and told him stories of heroes and angels. Yet nothing seemed to calm him when darkness arrived. The night, to Elias, was a vast enemy he could never defeat. Until one evening when his grandmother, a woman with eyes that seemed to hold centuries of wisdom, entered his room. She carried with her a tiny lantern, no bigger than the palm of her hand. Its frame was simple, crafted of old metal with glass sides, and inside flickered a small flame that looked fragile, as though the faintest breath could extinguish it. Elias frowned when he saw it. To him, the lantern looked too weak, too small to protect him against the vast black sea of the night. But his grandmother smiled with a knowing softness and said, "My dear, darkness is nothing more than the absence of light. And even the smallest flame can change everything. Keep this lantern close, and you will see." Her words sank into him, though he did not fully believe. Still, Elias accepted the lantern, wondering what difference it could possibly make. That night, when the fear began to creep back into his heart, he lit the lantern and placed it by his bedside. To his surprise, the room filled with a warm, golden glow. The corners of the room no longer seemed so threatening. The silence of the night became softer, gentler, like a lullaby instead of a warning. For the first time in many nights, Elias closed his eyes and drifted into peaceful sleep. From that night onward, the lantern became Elias's constant companion. He carried it with him whenever he stepped outside after sunset. As he walked under the vast sky, the lantern's glow revealed wonders he had never noticed before. The stars seemed to twinkle brighter when viewed alongside the lantern's soft flame, and the night no longer swallowed him whole. The tall trees, which once looked like looming giants, now appeared like old guardians whispering secrets to the night. The fields, which had seemed endless and threatening, now glowed with life and depth. Slowly, the boy who once trembled at shadows began to walk with confidence. The villagers noticed the change. They whispered that Elias, who once feared the night, now carried quiet strength. Years rolled on, and Elias grew. The little lantern never left his side. What surprised him most was that its flame never seemed to weaken. It did not require endless oil. It did not falter with time. Instead, it burned steady, as if alive, as if it carried within it a secret source of endless light. Elias realized something profound about the lantern. He came to understand that the lantern was not just a tool, it was a symbol. Each time he faced hardship, loneliness, or self-doubt, he would glance at its flame and remember that even the smallest light can make a difference. He learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to keep walking forward despite it. The lantern became his reminder of this truth. One fateful night, when Elias was no longer a child but a young man, the village was struck by a great storm. The wind howled like a wild beast clawing at the doors. Rain lashed the earth relentlessly, flooding the fields. Lightning split the sky into shards of fire, followed by thunder that shook the very ground. Fear swept through the entire village. One by one, the lights in every home went out, and darkness consumed the land. The villagers trembled in their homes, children crying as the storm raged. Fear spread like a second storm, heavier even than the rain. It was in that moment Elias remembered the lantern. He lit it and stepped outside, the flame glowing steadily despite the furious wind and rain. At first people thought him foolish. How could such a small light withstand the storm? But when they saw the lantern's glow cut through the swirling darkness, their hearts began to calm. Elias held the lantern high and walked through the streets, calling out to the villagers. One by one they followed him, their fears easing as the small flame guided them. He led them to the village hall, the strongest building in the village, where they huddled together until the storm passed. Throughout the night, the lantern's flame did not falter. It shone as though it carried not just fire, but hope itself. When the morning came and the storm had ended, the village stood shaken but safe. The people gathered, filled with gratitude. They thanked Elias for his courage, but Elias shook his head gently. "It was not me," he said. "It was the lantern. It reminded me, as it reminded you, that no matter how small the light, it can guide us through the darkest nights." From that day forward, the lantern was no longer just Elias's. It belonged to the whole village as their symbol. The villagers placed it in the center of the meeting hall so all could see it, so all could remember its lesson. But the story did not end there. Elias grew older, his hair turning silver, his steps slowing, yet he always sat by the lantern. And when children gathered around him, he told them the story again and again, with patience and warmth. He told them that the lantern's flame was not just fire, but a symbol of hope, kindness, and faith. He told them that each person carried a lantern within their hearts. That inner flame might feel small, almost fragile, but it had the power to guide not only themselves, but also others. The children listened wide-eyed, filled with wonder and belief. Many of them grew up carrying that teaching into their lives. Some of them became healers, using their words and touch to bring comfort to the sick. Others became teachers, lighting the minds of young students who hungered for wisdom. Some became builders, creating homes where families could gather safely. All remembered the lantern's lesson of light. The little lantern's message became part of the village itself, woven into its identity. Generations passed, and the flame continued to shine, both in the hall and within their hearts. It was no longer just a story, but a way of living. Now, dear listener, imagine yourself within this story. Have you ever felt as Elias once did, afraid of the dark, uncertain of tomorrow? Perhaps you have faced nights that felt endless when shadows loomed too large, and silence pressed too heavily on your heart. But just as Elias discovered, within you there is a light. It might seem small, fragile, or insignificant, but it is real. And it has the power to guide you forward. Light does not need to be grand to matter. Even the smallest flame can soften fear and lead the way. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture a lantern resting in your hands. Its glow is warm, golden, steady. Feel that warmth spreading through your fingers, into your chest, into your very heart. Notice how the shadows around you begin to fade, how your breath slows, how the weight you carry feels lighter. That light is your reminder. It is your strength. It is your hope. You are never alone in the darkness, for your inner flame always remains. Every time you lie down to rest, remember the lantern. Let it remind you that no matter how heavy your day has been, no matter how deep the night feels, there is still light within you. Let that light soften your fears, calm your thoughts, and carry you gently into sleep. And when you awaken, carry it with you into the world. Share it through your kindness, your compassion, your words, and your actions. For when you shine, others will see. And together, with each small flame joined to another, we can make even the darkest nights brighter. So tonight, as you prepare to close your eyes, remember this story. A little lantern in the darkness is never too small to matter. and neither are you. May your sleep be gentle, may your heart be calm, and may your light continue to glow quietly, guiding you always, just as Elias's lantern once did for him and his village.